during training, you can do that one of two ways. First of all, if you're looking at the top part of your screen, if you see the smiley face with the hand, you can click on that, which is like raising your hand in class, and we will try to call on you at the appropriate breaking point that you can ask your question. Otherwise, if you don't want to ask your question out loud, you can type into the bubble that is to the left of that. And we will, depending on the question, if it's just for your site or if it's something that everyone would benefit from, we will also read your question and answer it out loud to everyone. So another housekeeping thing is, not all of you have received the PowerPoint that we're going through today. Kara will be emailing that out to your site during training. Please make sure that you do download the training because it does expire. And it will be coming from what's called WeTransfer. So just be on the lookout for that link because we will be sending that out to you, and that is how you can use the PowerPoint to then train the rest of your staff or your caterer if not everyone is in attendance from your site today. So let's get started. So our agenda for this morning is as follows. We are going to review the Civil Rights Annual Training Requirement, and then we will switch over to the CACFP Annual Training Requirements, which will include an at-risk after-school overview of the program, the record-keeping requirements involved with at-risk after-school, and the COVID-19 waivers that are currently in place that are to expire on June 30th, 2022. And then if we have any additional questions after that last section of training, we're more than happy to answer any other questions or concerns that your site may have before we log off of training. So we're going to start with the civil rights training. So if you have received your training logs, you have two sets of training logs. One is for the responsible individual, which I'm assuming most of you are. You have one for civil rights, and you have one for the CACFP annual training requirements. So the training we are covering now is in regards to the civil rights training. There's also another set for your staff, so if they are on this training today, they can also sign off on the staff training log. They just need to print their name, sign their name, put in today's date and their position title on their particular training log. Again, if your staff are not on this training today, you will be getting an at-risk after-school training guide along with the PowerPoint to assist you in training your staff. So let's get into the civil rights part of training. So on the slide, it contains two posters. One is Building for the Future with the CACFP and the Injustice Poster for All. These two posters do need to be posted in a prominent place at your site for the civil rights compliance. So there are 9 areas of civil rights compliance, but what are civil rights? Civil rights refers to the personal liberties that are guaranteed by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and Acts of Congress. This ensures fair and equitable treatment of all customers and employees. The goals of civil rights guidelines are equal treatment and delivery of programs and services to all applicants, knowledge of rights and responsibilities, elimination of illegal barriers that prevent or deter people from receiving benefits, and showing dignity and respect to all. So we are going to review the 9 areas of civil rights compliance. So the first one is collection and use of data. Typically, when there isn't waivers in place, we ask for families and participants to complete racial and ethnic data for enrolled participants, which is found on a household income statement. And we keep that confidential here in our office. Currently, there is a waiver in place that all at-risk programs are eligible regardless of the school district data. Therefore, this upcoming school year, the 2021-22 school year, none of your sites will be required to collect household income statements or report racial and ethnic data of your participants. Typically, this is done to ensure that there is equal access to all at each site. The second is effective public notifications. You must inform potential, eligible, and current participants of benefits of the CACFP. Provide appropriate information in alternative formats for persons with disabilities. Please contact Partners in Quality Care if you need assistance with this. We also can provide materials in other languages if needed. 3 is complaint procedures. Discrimination, complaint, age, sex, or disability. Never discourage individuals from filing complaints or voicing allegations of discrimination. To file a complaint, refer to the USDA non-discrimination and complaint procedure as outlined on your And Justice for All poster in the right-hand bottom corner. Number 4 is compliance review techniques. State agencies will assess if Partners in Quality Care has implemented non-discrimination and civil rights requirements. 5 is resolution of non-compliance. Stop inappropriate actions. Failure or refusal to do so can stop and result in loss of federal assistance. 6 is reasonable accommodations of people with disabilities. Programs must supply food substitutions as required by program regulations. Reasonable accommodations must be made for special diet requests that are related to physical or mental impairments that substantially limit or affect a major life activity and/or major bodily function. Follow the Department of Human Services and the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements for other accommodations to ensure access for all. We will be covering special diet statements later in the presentation. 7 is language assistance. People with limited English proficiency need to be served in familiar languages. Outreach to participants in other languages is important. Method of language assistance provided depends on the number and proportion of LEP persons served, frequency of contact, nature of services, and available resources. Please do not use children as interpreters. Interpreters may be volunteers, but must respect the confidentiality and understand interpreter ethics. View the limited English proficiency PowerPoint once it is emailed to you or in your at-risk after-school training guide, once that is also given to you. 8 is conflict resolution. Always please remain calm, explain the situation, get help if needed, especially if you feel threatened. Use alternative dispute resolution techniques such as mediation when necessary. The last one, number 9, is customer service. Be patient, be polite, avoid sarcasm, don't be afraid to apologize, and treat others the way you want to be treated. And finally, to wrap up the civil rights portion of training, if you have a brochure, a Facebook post, or a website that mentions that your program participates on the Child and Adult Care Food Program specifically, you need to include the non-discrimination statement, which reads, "This institution is an equal opportunity provider." So that completes the civil rights portion of training. So if you have your training logs, you can complete that portion. Are there any questions before we move on to the CACFP requirements?
What paperwork are you referring to? Hello?
Hi, so did you receive, what I'm referring to are if you received training logs in an email prior to training.
Can I say something? Okay, so if you pre-registered with your email address before like 3 o'clock yesterday, you would have gotten an email from me. This is Kara. with training logs attached to it. It's 4 separate attachments. If you did not receive that email with training logs in it, I'm gonna do this. Can you type your email address in the chat box right now? And I will make sure that I send those to you. So if you don't have training logs in your email, go into that speech bubble, click on it, type your email address in there. Don't just say I need them because I don't know your email address. So type your email address in there, and then I will work on sending those while I'm working on sending out the PowerPoint.
Are there any other questions?
I just need it again because I didn't know it.
The annual training requirements for at-risk after school. So this is going to be the overview of the program. Then we're going to talk about the sponsor responsibilities and the program's responsibilities of the at-risk school program. So at-risk after-school programs provide a much-needed service to their communities. They give children a safe place to go after school and provide nutritious food that gives them the energy they need to concentrate on homework and join their friends in physical, educational, and social activities. For many children, this may be the only opportunity to access a healthy meal after the school day ends. After-school programs must meet the following requirements in order to receive reimbursement for meals and snacks on the Child and Adult Care Food Program. 1, they must be organized primarily to provide for children after school or on the weekends, holidays, or school vacation days during the regular school year. 2, provide organized, regular scheduled education or enrichment activities. Due to the COVID-19 waivers in place, these activities can either be face-to-face or virtual. So if you are doing 7-day-week meal pack or enrichment, all activities must be age appropriate for the children that you are serving. So before you start the at-risk after-school program, please be mindful when planning activities that they are age appropriate, especially if you are serving children from ages 1 to 18, as an activity for a 1-year-old will not be appropriate for someone who is 18. So please make sure that you are planning activities for all the children that you are serving. 3, be located in an attendance area of a public school where at least 50% or more of the children are eligible for free or reduced price meals under the National School Lunch Program. Again, there is a waiver in place that are allowing all sites to participate regardless of their area eligibility at this time. As a side note, there is no requirement that all students receiving meals must participate in the offered activities, but activities must be offered to all participants that would like to partake in the activities that you are providing. Also, programs serving school-age children only must be a nonprofit. So as we are processing your program's applications, we have been checking to make sure that you do have a valid nonprofit and 501(c) status. Sites can receive meal reimbursement for enrolled children age 18 and under. If a child is 18 at the beginning of this school year and turns 19 throughout the school year, they are still eligible for meals until the end of the school year. We recommend that you are serving children from ages 1 to 18, as the children age 1 would need to be provided with formula and baby food, which is a different meal pattern, so we'd like to stick to the main meal pattern. Finally, without the COVID-19 waivers in place, after-school programs in non-area eligible locations may be eligible to receive reimbursement for children under the age of 13 pending income eligibility forms. At least 50% of enrolled children must qualify for free or reduced eligibility recorded on a household income statement. So that's the overview of the program. Are there any questions?
Yes, hi, Rapin. This is Mina from Haj's Kitchen. I just have a quick question. if we cannot gather any families due to the coronavirus, I thought this was a non-congregate program kind of. Do we have to bring family and kids together?
So basically with the at-risk after-school program, the basis of the program is that you have programming already in place and that you're reaching out to families and you're pretty much sharing your program that you have established. And the nice caveat with that is that you can also provide free meals. So however your program plans to do outreach is how you can gather the families for your programming.
Oh, so we don't have to bring the kids and the family into the site, but if we offer them kind of the link where they can do some activity, that would be enough.
Correct. With the COVID waivers in place, right now your activities can be on site or virtual.
Virtual. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so now we're going to talk about at-risk after school from the sponsor standpoint. So what are the things that we are here to help you set up for success for the at-risk after school program? So one is we need to provide you with training. So initially when any program starts, they need to be trained on both the CACFP requirements and the civil rights requirements. With training, it is also required that you have annual training on these two requirements. So if you did participate in at-risk after school last fall and were trained, that's why we have invited you again to training today, because it is an annual requirement. Second, we also have to conduct monitoring visits per regulation. So as your site being Oh, I didn't even mute. Sorry about that. As your site support are being assigned, you will have, first of all, an intake meeting, and then your site support will set up a pre-op meeting or a visit to make sure that your site is actually ready to do the CACFP at-risk after-school program. Once we've deemed that you're ready to start programming, we do what's called a 28-day visit. So that is a monitoring visit done by your site support, and they come within that first 28 days of you starting actual distributing and claiming meals. We are required to do 3 monitoring visits a year, so depending on when your program actually starts, you would have a 28-day visit, a trimester 1 visit, and a trimester 2 and possibly 3 visit. You can find examples of the monitoring visit once you do actually get your at-risk after school training guide. There is an example of a monitoring visit in the record keeping section in that book. Also, it is really important when we are conducting monitoring visits that you do stick to your schedule, so that if you say you're distributing meals on a Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., that you are there from Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. because our site support are going to go out and try to conduct these visits, and if they cannot find you, we will not be reimbursing you for those meals. So it's very important that you communicate with them if your schedule is going to change or if your times are changing, as we need to get these monitoring visits done in a timely manner. So with that being said, if you do make any adjustments to the day of the week your meal is served, you must also make sure that you have to make sure that 7 days have passed since your prior meal service before you distribute meals again. So example, if your distribution day is on a Wednesday and the following week, due to circumstances you'd like to serve on Monday, that would not be allowed because 7 days have not passed since your last distribution. There will only be 5 days, so you would actually need to take a week off if you wanted to change your days from Wednesday to Monday permanently, so that you can reset, and there will be that 7 days lapse when you are going to start distributing meals again on Mondays. Any questions about that?
We do have a question. Okay, one from AfterSchool.
Go ahead and
Yes, my question is, my question is, if I do delay my schedule, like for instance, my schedule is from 9 o'clock to 2 p.m., but if I continue serving until 4 p.m., what will that will be, is there an extra hours or is that allowed? Like for instance, my schedule is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., but I do stay until 4 p.m.
So that is fine with the waivers that are currently in place. However, further in the training, we are going to talk about My Food Program, and you're all going to be using the My Food Program app. So it's really important, if you are planning to go longer than 2 p.m., if you think you will actually be there till 4, that you give site support that information, because what happens is we put into My Food Program what your meal service times are. So if they are normally 9 to 2, your app will open exactly at 9 so that you can start recording attendance and meal counts. But it will also close at 2 o'clock, and you will not be able to record any more meals that are served for that day. So if you feel you need an hour or 2 at the end to pad to make sure that you get your meals served, give them that time frame so that we can put that into the system. Because again, if you say 9 to 2, My Food Program will not allow you to record any more attendance or meal counts after 2 o'clock. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much, yes.
Okay.
I think too, because this is a good point to add too. Somebody on another training said, like, what if I call my site support and they don't answer the phone? It is good for you to all know that our phone numbers are all cell phone numbers. So if you have phone numbers for your site support, if they don't answer, you can always text them and let them know too, or send an email to us as well. When I say us, I don't mean me. Don't send it to Kara. Send it to your site support, because then we have it like recorded that you need to get that done.
Can you see what Sharon's question is?
Yeah, so Sharon has a question that says, what happens to programs that serve after 2? 2 was just an example of the time. So you're going to tell us, you're going to say, okay, we're distributing 7-day meal packs on Sundays from, 10 to 12, and that's fine, right? If you want to distribute on Tuesdays from 4 to 7 p.m., that's okay too. But what Robin is saying is, once you tell us that, we're using that time to, number 1, schedule your monitoring visits, and number 2, to put into software where you're able to access your meal counts. So if you had picked a time that said you were ending at 2, and you know that you wanted to go longer than that, you would just need to let us know.
Are there any other questions?
I have one question. With our rural community, since we are far away from the city, I'm working with Edgar, but sometimes when the winter is so deep, we change the dates. Should we tell you ahead of time, or?
So dates again get tricky, and that is kind of why we put this example in, because we realize there will be inclement weather, and so we have to be mindful, if we're going to redistribute on another day, that we are allowing those 7 days between meal services to lapse. So just be in communication with Edgar if your schedule does need to change at all. And also for your delivery people, again, if they're delivering in not so great weather, you also may want to think about, for delivery purposes, maybe adding an hour or two to your meal service time. So definitely talk to your site support to ensure that you have enough time to take attendance and meal counts for both your on-site distribution and your deliveries.
I got some more questions. So Sharon also asked, can we do meal delivery to family homes? We are going to talk more about that in a few slides, but the short answer to that is yes. Meal delivery is allowed, and we'll talk more about what the rules are about that, but that's a good segue because like Robin just said too, if you're delivering. So delivery is allowed. We'll talk more about what that means. And then Fahad asks, do the site staff only print and sign the bottom portion of the forms? I'm assuming you're talking about the training logs. So there are 4 training logs in your email. 2 say responsible individual. So like if you are the site supervisor, if you are the like person in charge at your nonprofit, you're filling out 2 forms. You're filling out CACFP for responsible individual, and you're filling out civil rights for the responsible individual. The other 2 forms are for all of the rest of your staff. So if you have staff on today, have them fill out and sign the bottom. There's like a big box on the bottom, and we'll show you a copy at the end of the PowerPoint. Everybody today can fill it out and get it back to us right away. And then if you're going to train your own staff later or new staff, they can just fill out a new form too. So not all of your site staff have to be on the same training form, but you can put multiple on one. I hope that answers that question. Okay, that's all the stuff in here.
Okay, so we'll hit on the last 2 parts then. So reviewing required paperwork. So we do require paperwork to be submitted to us each month in order to process your claim for reimbursement. You will be provided a claims checklist that notifies you which documents we need prior to processing your claims. Partners in Quality Care will then review the documents, save them in your program's electronic file, as well as maintain hard copies on file at our office as well. Your site will have an electronic folder, and that will be shared with you, and you will have access to your files on site. So once your program is up and running, look for an email within your first month of operation to set up your electronic file so you do have access to all of your claims documents. Finally, processing your claim. After you have turned in the required paperwork, it has been reviewed, and we're able to submit your claim to the Department of Education, and your payment is remitted to us. We will then in turn remit payment to your site. As a part of regulations, we have to, once we receive those monies from the Department of Education, we have to have that money to you within 5 business days. So all documents are due on Tuesday in order for your claim to be processed on Friday. Once your claim has been processed, Dan, our claims manager, will send you an email with that claim summary, and then your payment will be issued the following week. If you receive a paper check, that will be available for pickup on Thursdays, or we can mail that to you. Please let us know your preference. And you also can choose direct deposit as well. Direct deposit is initiated on Fridays, and then it is up to your banking institution when that actually hits your account. So that is the overview from the sponsor standpoint. Are there any additional questions before we move on?
Yes, okay. Will that be every week payment processing? So I anticipate there's going to be questions about payment because that was what was a hot mess last year, right? So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're making sure that all of your sites are fully turned on in the Clicks payment system before we allow you to start. We are doing that so that we can guarantee that we are able to process your claims on time and that we don't have a holdup like we did last year, okay? When you get reimbursed for meals, that's a good question. So if you start serving meals in September, you can't get reimbursed until October. So it is a monthly payment. You get reimbursed once a month. We cannot process a September claim until October 1st or later. So when you get your claim processed, depends on when you turn stuff in, right? So if you're on it and you're ready to go and you have everything to us at the beginning of the month, you're gonna get processed right away. If you hold on to it for 3 or 4 weeks, you will get processed during that week. You have up to 60 days to turn in your paperwork. So if you come to us in January and want to process your September claim, we are not able to do that. We no longer have access. So once a month closes, we have 60 days to process. We process claims every Friday. So every single week, we process paperwork that comes into us. So if you come in and turn something in on a Thursday, it's not going to get processed the next day. We can't turn something around in 24 hours. So what will happen is it will get processed the following week. So every week we're processing claims, but you actually get paid once a month, if that answers the question. About payment?
I do about the training in general, or is this going to be something that we can review later as far as this training, or is this it? As far as the PowerPoint live virtual right now?
Yeah.
So we are operating this training virtually so that anyone who wants to mark off that they have been trained, they can sit through this virtual training. However, like I said at the beginning, Kara is emailing the PowerPoint to everyone. So if you have staff that need to be trained, you can use that as a tool to train your staff. Or when you are ready to pick up your materials here at the office, when your program is ready to begin, you also will be given an at-risk after-school training guide that you can use as well.
Yeah, so when you get the PowerPoint, it actually, in the note section, there is a script in there, so you'll be able to read most of the things that we're saying. And then the other piece is that I trained on Friday and somebody that was watching it actually recorded it. So we do have a recorded version of this. It misses like the first couple minutes of it, and it's not like a scripted, it was basically somebody just recording the session. So if you think that would be helpful, you can shoot Kara an email and let me know that you want the recorded version, and I'm happy to email that to you. And then one other thing I'm going to mention too is as we go through this, we have like 3 different videos in here, and we are going to be sending out a link to all of you after this training with additional resources, materials, and then the links to those videos, so you can rewatch those videos as many times as you want. And those videos are scripted. We have issues with our computer sound, so you're actually going to get to listen to me narrate the videos today. But once you get them in your email, they'll be scripted for you.
One more question for chat.
One more question about claims. It says, so can we send in the paperwork every week? And the answer to that is yes. It's up to you how you want to provide your paperwork to us. Some people like to turn it in every week because then you don't have to keep track of it till the end of the month. You don't want people to do that.
There's not going to be as much paperwork this year.
That's true.
Everything will be done in my food program. So realistically, the only paperwork is going to be, receipts or permission slips. Or if you're hot food, there's the menu. So you'll be submitting meal counts and attendance on the days that you're actually distributing the food. So there won't be as much paperwork as there was last year.
Yeah, that is true. So for the most part, honestly, the biggest bulk of your paperwork is probably going to be your receipts and invoices. And if you want to hold on to those until the end of the month and turn them into us, you can do that. But we also, you can send them every week if you would rather do that too. It's really up to you and what works best for you.
Sorry, my computer decided to have some technical difficulties. So now I can move forward. So now we're going to do the at-risk after-school program overview for the site's responsibility. So there are 9 areas we're going to review. So the first one is attend training. So everyone who is attending training is fulfilling that annual requirement today. So again, only the responsible individual for your program is on this training today, that you do take the PowerPoint or the training guide to then train your staff. Until we receive your training guides from both the responsible individual and all of your staff that will be on site distributing meals, you will not be able to begin programming or distributing meals. You can start your program, but you will not be able to start meals until we have all your paperwork. 2, making sure that meals are handled safely. So during meal service, we need to make sure that you're keeping cold foods cold below 41 degrees, whether you're using a cooler on site or a refrigerated truck. We need to make sure that those cold foods are below 41 degrees. And that hot food, so those of you that are serving hot meals, you're keeping those hot foods hot. If you're doing hot meals, we need you to make sure that you are recording meal temperatures. Jessica will be providing a box on the menu for you to write in temperatures next to your supper. So that will be available to you. What you will be recording is the temperature of your meat alternate, because that is the component that can become unsafe and will get children sick. If your meals are delivered to your site before the meal service, make sure your food is properly stored. So if you're getting cold foods, making sure they get into the cooler that is at 41 degrees or lower. If you are delivering meals to your children's homes, so this was a question, you must have a way to maintain food temperature in every delivery vehicle. So if it is hot meals, you're wanting to use insulated bags. So if you're obviously you have to use a vendor, so chat with them to see if they have enough insulated bags to provide your site with. Or I suggest investing in some insulated bags for your site so that you can keep those meals at a safe temperature for the children. So delivery is allowed as long as it's to the front door of each child's home. So what that means is if you are delivering to children that may not live in a single home residence but in an apartment building, you actually need to bring those meals inside the apartment building to their actual door and drop them off. We cannot have people coming outside of the apartment building, congregating and collecting meals, because then that would be an additional site for your program. So we do need to make sure that meals that are delivered to their child's front door. You do have to have a signed permission slip on file from the family that clearly identifies the name of your organization. We will be providing a permission slip to your organization. Please let your site support know if you are going to be delivering, as well as the name and ages of the children you are delivering to. Again, talk to your site support if you need permission slips. Work with us to make sure you are familiar with following the state and local health and sanitation codes. The health department will be notified of each site's intent to distribute meals, so it will depend on the location of your site, whether that health department is going to actually come out and want your distribution. If they do contact us and let us know that they will be visiting your site, we will give you a heads up and let you know when they'll be coming again. We need to make sure that you are sticking to your distribution days and times so that we send the health department out at the correct day and time as well. Make sure your meals served meet the meal pattern requirements. So for sites providing the 7-day meal packs, you will be provided with menu options and packing sheets. If you worked with us last year, you know what the packing sheets look like. If your site is providing hot meals, you will work with your site support and Jessica, a registered dietitian, to ensure that your menu meets the meal pattern. For hot meals, if you make meal substitutions, make sure that the meal still meets the requirements and record the substitution on your monthly meal. On your monthly menu. The CACFP meal pattern is different for summer food than it is for at-risk after school. So the main two meal components that are different will be the milk requirements, and there is also a whole grain component that needs to be served, and we will touch on this more in the presentation. Record meals and attendance at point of service. So this requirement ensures that the meal counts are accurate. Meal counts should never exceed the daily attendance. Meal counts and attendance can only be submitted through software this year. So we are using our My Food Program app. You can take attendance with either a phone or a tablet. If you do decide to purchase a tablet, we recommend having a data plan so that you do not have issues with spotty internet, and we'll be showing you a video in a moment on how to do that. Typically, you would only submit records for meals that are eaten entirely on site unless your site allows children to take one item, either a fruit, vegetable, or grain item off site. There is a waiver in place now for parents to have the ability to pick up meals for their children, which allows you to serve the multiple day meal packs. Submit meal records only for meals served within the appropriate meal times. So again, communicate with your site support to adjust approved meal times. In addition, if exceptional circumstances arise, like your refrigerator truck breaks down, like we talked about earlier, if there's inclement weather, make sure that you communicate that to your site support as soon as possible. Meals must be delivered within 1 hour of serving time. Again, that is making sure that we are serving meals safely. If children are on site, a food item taken off site must be from the child's own meal or left from on a shared table by another child who did not want that meal component. Do not allow parents to eat any portion of a child's meal. Serve meals to children 18 years of age or younger, or people of all ages with physical or mental disabilities who participate in special school programs for the disabled. Serve meals to all attending children regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. Allow all children equal access to services and facilities at your site, regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. In a prominent place, we do need you to display the Injustice for All poster, again, going back to the civil rights training. We will be providing that to you in your final materials pickup here at the office. If your site is outdoors, you may want to take the poster back and forth each day, attach it to coolers, put it inside your refrigerator truck, or invest in sandwich boards, because there are several posters with this program, and you also have to make sure that your menu is posted as well. Make program materials available to public upon request. If your programming is on site, inform us about any field trips that affect the meal service. And finally, comply with any guidance provided by your site support staff, whether that be through training that you do one-on-one or on monitoring visits. I just want to point out too, we will be using email as the main mode of communication with your programs. So please inform your site support if we need to update your email to your program to an email address that is checked more regularly. So that concludes this section of training. Are there any questions before we move on to record keeping?
I don't see any questions.
Okay, so moving on. So the next section that we're going to touch on is record keeping. So there are 11 areas that we're going to talk about with record keeping. So these are all either documents that you need to have on file or in person with you at your site. So we are going to start with attendance and meal counts. Before I start with that, just make sure that if you are retaining any paper copies for the food program, that you do retain all paperwork for 3 years of the current fiscal year. These records can be kept on paper or you can keep them electronically. Partners in Quality Care retains all records both in the paper format and the shared electronic file that I referred to earlier. 12 months and current months records need to be stored at the site or your program, and then 2 years prior can be stored in an off-site secured location, but they need to be accessed if needed. And when they would be needed would be when we were in the middle of an MDE review if they request any of the paperwork directly from the site. You wanna? So moving on to attendance and meal counts. So this year we are going to be using the My Food Program software to record all attendance and meal counts. This is why Kara has sent everyone a welcome email along with the request for your roster attached. Because, yep.
You guys, on this session, we actually have people on today that did not pre-register with Jody. So if you have not received a welcome to the food program, this is who your site support staff person is, and it has an Excel document with the roster on there. If you have not received that email for your site, can you please write that in the chat bubble box right now for me so that I know who I still need to get that to that is on here for training. So if you have not received that, please let me know. Sorry.
No, you're okay. So if you have received that welcome letter and you are putting together your rosters, the rosters must include the child's first name, last name, date of birth. This year, ages are not acceptable. We do need date of birth so that we can upload that into My Food Program, and a parent name. Inside the software, which you'll see in a moment, the children will be organized by household so that it makes it easier for you to take attendance and meal counts. So we will not be using any paper attendance or meal counts this year. If a child is not on your roster and comes to your program, you will not be able to take a meal count or attendance for that child on that particular day. If you do hand out meals, those meals will not be reimbursed. You can add additional children to your roster, but we are asking that you give us a 1 week notice turnaround time. So if you distribute on Wednesdays, if you can get those additional children to us either Thursday or Friday so that we can get those children input into your roster, because we do have to do that then manually, that would be greatly appreciated. We're now ready for the video. So now we are going to show you a video on how to take attendance and meal counts in the My Food Program software.
Okay, so this is Kara. Like I said, this email is going to come out to you at the end that has a link to all these videos. So we'll go through what you need to do right now in order to take attendance and meal count. And then if you need to show this to extra people that are going to be actually taking the meal counts for you, delivery drivers, any of those people, you'll have this link to share with them. The other piece of this is that once you turn your rosters back into us, that's when we're going to create your account in My Food Program. Everybody is going to be automatically assigned a username and a password. If you have more than one person who's going to be taking meal counts, we can absolutely make you more than one username and password. So if you think about like how I keep comparing it to Chick-fil-A, like when you go through the drive-thru when COVID happened, they have everybody out there with those tablets that come up to your car. That's honestly what a lot of this is going to look like. So for every tablet or phone you have out there taking meal counts, you most likely will want a separate username or login. If you have delivery drivers, again, you'd probably want a separate username or login. So if you need to have more than one, that's something that you're going to want to let your site support staff know. Okay? So we will go through the video. Jody's going to hit play. So every day when you distribute food, so either daily if you're doing hot meals or once or twice a week, whatever, if you're doing 7-day meal packs, you're going to go onto your phone or tablet and you're going to go to our website, and that's partnersandqualitycare.org, which you can see right here. And right on that main page, there's a big purple button that says enter meal counts and attendance. And you're going to go ahead and click on that. And like I said, you or each individual person who is on a tablet or something is going to have their own username and password. And you're going to go ahead and log in. And then this is what it's going to look like. And you're going to want to scroll down. And you're going to want to hit that button that says multi-day meal packs. Even if you're doing daily hot food, push that button. Then when you get to this point, if you're on a phone or tablet, it makes the most sense to flip it sideways because you're going to get a bigger screen. And then whatever day it is that day, you're going to go ahead and enter that date. So if today is my distribution day and it was August 24th, I'm going to go in and put August 24th. You're going to want to do this like at the beginning of your meal service because you're only going to do this part once. You're going to mark PM, snack, and supper because every one of you is serving PM, snack, and supper. Breakfast and lunch are covered by the school district. And then how many days are in your meal pack? If you're doing 7, you put in 7. If you're doing daily hot food, you put in the number 1. Then what's going to happen is somebody's going to come up and they're going to say, okay, I'm here. You're going to ask them what their parent name is, and you're going to select the parent name. If you do not put parent names on your roster, first of all, we're going to push back and tell you to add them. And if you definitely can't get them, they're going to go and get dumped in this list called no parent name provided. And that's going to make it really hard for you to do meal counts. So you really want to get parent names because it's going to make it easier for you. So this parent cartoon pulls up. They have 6 kids. All 6 kids are grouped together so you can take their attendance and meal counts at once. You either give them their 6 hot meals or their 6 bags of groceries. You mark all 6, scroll down, and hit save. So your meal counts and your attendance for that family are done. You know it works because there's a little blue box that says attendance saved. And then what's going to happen is they're going to pull away, the next family is going to pull up, and you're going to ask them again, what is your parent name? When you're serving the same kids because they're enrolled with you in the same families, obviously over time you're going to get to know that, right? So like if Robin's coming every week, by week 4 I'm probably not going to have to ask her what her name is. So we understand that. But if it winds up where you don't have a parent name, like I said, that one roster that says no parent name, all of it.
And the unlikely event of a water landing or seat on the cushions having this application device installed on the cushion to move it to the exit. When exiting the aircraft, disarm the straps on the aircraft. This aircraft is equipped like that.
To take meal counts, we don't have. So for asking for that,
Aboard this aircraft, the main cabin door,
no aircraft. So what questions do you have about how to take attendance and meal counts? This is taking the place of you standing out there with a clicker. This is, it's taking the place of the clicker. It's taking the place over you having to handwrite thousands of children's names. I guess part of it I was hard to hear because somebody cut in over me. So if there's something you think you missed, let me know. If you have questions, let me know. You can unmute or you can type them in the box. Martin, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Kara. This is Martin Mohammed with the African Chamber of Commerce.
Hi.
And I hope everybody's having a good time with all this data.
It's a lot, we know.
It's a lot. It feels like we are starting all over again with the change that you guys introduced. But I have a quick question.
Yeah.
We haven't collected data before in terms of birth dates. We only collected in terms of age. So from what I gather here, this program is going to go to another level, which I think is going to be okay. But the question I have for you is, we're starting the program sometime next week. So at that stage, when you serve meals to families, that's when you actually need to collect the data. That's what I am thinking it is. But right now, it feels like the roster you sent it to me also requested to send the data in advance before you even start the program with the inclusion of the birth date. Is that correct, or am I not understanding well?
Yep, it is correct. This is actually a really common question, so I'm glad that you asked it. This is really making it like, it's the difference between the summer food program and the at-risk after-school program, right? So summer food is open to the community. Summer food, anybody can drive up, pull up, get food from your site, right? This for at-risk after school, and part of what happened last year and part of why MDE stepped in the way they did is because people were running at-risk after school programs like they were summer food sites. Robin talked a lot about the programming. The programming here is honestly the most important part, even over the food. So that's why we've really streamlined our systems, is because if stuff goes down this year, we're making sure we're protecting the sites that are working with us. That's why we've upped the level of how we're doing this, okay? We're trying to have more control and provide you guys with more direction so that people don't accidentally even do things wrong, because then if MDE comes in or other people come in, it's not gonna be our sites that are messed with, right? We're gonna do it right, we're gonna be able to keep on going. So if you are offering programming, which is like the basis of the program, right? Like you have to be offering programming, kids and families should be signed up for that programming or to receive that programming. You're offering this food in addition to that, okay? If they're not enrolled with you right now, that means they're not enrolled with you right now. So think about it if the waivers didn't exist. If MDE said, okay, never mind, we're not going to do the waivers and everybody has to eat on site like you would a normal at-risk after-school program, if you don't have dates of birth or a way to contact those parents to get their dates of birth and parent name, they would never know to come to your site, right? So there's a set list of kids that are going to be with you. And so I know we've gotten a lot of pushback from people, but like you can't just open your site up to the public, see who shows up, and create a roster that way. That's never been the intent of the program, even though we know that that's what people did last year. I've suggested to people, like, maybe do some type of kickoff event, right? Reach out to people in your community. If you're in a park, throw up some balloons, give out some ice cream, offer your programming. Hey, we're an after-school program. We're going to be providing virtual activities, and you can sign up to get food from us, right? So, like, it's thinking of it in a different way, thinking of it from a different
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's absolutely clear now. So you can do it in a different ways. You can go back and contact the historical families that came to you and now ask more information, which you did not ask in the past. I think that's one way to do it. And at the same time, maybe have an ongoing activity where you can participate with families and collect the data you want now. But that's all going to be in the future events when things begin. Okay, now it looks like it's clear to me. But
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Absolutely. I actually have a couple more things to say about rosters that might help you guys. So let's say you had a roster last year and it had 100 kids on it and you can only get a hold of 25 of those kids right now. Give us the roster for 25 kids, right? You're going to go out your first week. You're going to have 25 kids on your roster. That's who you're allowed to serve. Let's say Robin is on my roster and Jody pulls up and she says, I want to get food for my kid too. What do I need to do to get on your list? You can that day have her sign up. She can't take food that day, but let's say I'm distributing on Saturdays, she can sign up and I'm going to say, we're an after-school program, we're offering activities, we're offering free meals, and if you want to sign up, you can. Give me your information and come back next Saturday. And then what you would do is you're going to send to site support who you need to add onto your roster so that we can get them into software for you, okay? This is something that is really going to help streamline the process. It's going to keep MDE off our backs. We're going to have really organized reports and everything. The reason that we're asking for date of birth is kind of twofold, because we've also gotten pushback on that, right? Why are you asking for date of birth? Number one, when Robin said if a child is 18 at the beginning of the school year and turns 19, you can still serve them through that school year. You're not going to catch those kids if you don't have a date of birth. If somebody walks up to you in December and tells you they're 19, you're going to turn them away. When in fact, if they were 18 in September, they would still be eligible to be served, okay? Number two, software only takes dates of birth, right? We can't put in, okay, this child is 9 years old. We have gotten pushback that there are parents who don't want to give out their dates of birth. Here's my answer to that. This after-school program is the sister program to the free and reduced lunch in the schools. The funding is coming from the exact same place, from the USDA. So does your child get free lunch at school? Probably yes, right? Have you ever lost your WIC or your SNAP or any benefits because your child got free lunch at school? And the answer to that is no. The same answer is no to this. They will not lose anything by taking a free supper and a free snack from you. It does not impact any other benefits in any regard. The other pushback I have to that is why if you were on site. So again, if the waivers didn't exist and those kids had to get dropped off with you or had to sit with you, you would want information for them. You would want to know who their parents are. You would want to know the date of birth of that child. Children can't enroll in school without giving their date of birth. Children can't enroll in childcare without giving their date of birth. I'm not asking for addresses. I'm not asking for social security numbers. I'm truly asking for a date of birth. People are saying, well, how do I know? How do I know if the right date of birth is given to me? The answer is honestly, you don't. If a parent lies to you and says their birthday is in October when really it's in June, we don't know that, right? That's not something we know, but we want to ask them and we want to explain to them why it is they're giving us that information. Okay. Any other questions about rosters or about meal counts?
Now, Karen, I have another follow-up question. Now, since we are talking about civil rights, the collection of the data from the families will not be a refusal for any food donation, right? So, in other words, if somebody does not want to give you some of the information because of some other issue that we don't know, could be immigration issue or whatever the issue is, that will not be a refusal for them to take the food, right?
So honestly, Martin, right?
Yeah, Martin Muhammad, yeah.
Honestly, I would have to ask to MDE because licensing wouldn't let you sign up for a child care center and not give your date of birth, whether it was an immigration issue or some other issue, right? So my assumption is if they can't tell you how old their child is, they would not be eligible to sign up for your after-school program. This is a different realm because child cares and adult cares are licensed by DHS. So we don't usually have to micromanage all of this, right? If they're getting child care assistance or MA, obviously those systems have their date of birth, whereas after-school programs don't have to be licensed by DHS. So again, what I would encourage you to think of is if you were a face-to-face programming, you had a big office, you did tutoring, a parent refused to give you their child's information, would you enroll in your program? Because again, like what if there is a specific issue where a parent absolutely will not give a date of birth? Because I get what you're saying. We want to make sure we're not violating civil rights, but I don't know that that falls within the realm of civil rights, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Oh, and Jody has a good point too. We're never going to tell you not to give people food, but if they're not, you can't count them. So if you want to give them a thing of food and not count their meal counts, that's a whole different deal. Okay, so can we just use the clicker at the point of service and transfer to the tally form later on? The answer to that is no, you are not going to want to do that because you also have to have attendance, because this is at risk after school. So you need not just the meal counts, but you also need attendance. Just like the kids were physically on site, you'd be sitting at the table with them, taking meal counts and attendance. So for summer food, you can do the clicker because you only need to know how many meals you served. In this situation, you need to know not only how many meals you served, but who you served them to. And so if you wanted to do it on paper, right? Like, and I think Robin alluded to this earlier, we do have a paper backup form we're gonna give you. Like, let's say you don't have Wi-Fi service or software crashes. There is a piece of paper where truly you could click it to a clipboard and you could write down the name of every child and their date of birth as they pulled up, right? If you do that and then you put the information in software, it's honestly going to take you twice as long. If you do that, you kind of lose control over who's on your roster, right? If I have 500 kids on my roster and I start writing things down on paper and Jody pulls up to get the food and she's not on my roster, but I gave her food and wrote it on my paper, I'm not going to get reimbursed for those meals. So by using paper, you actually run the risk of losing money. The other piece is if you do it on paper, we're going to have to manually enter all of those things into software. So the rule is federally from the USDA that meal counts and attendance need to be taken at point of service. And what that means is when the car pulls up to get the meals, or when the children sit down at the table, or when the delivery driver hands the food to the family member, that is point of service. So that's when you should be recording who, like the number that you gave out and who you gave them out to, okay? The next one is, can we provide food to a child that is not signed up for our activity? All of the children are signed up for your activity. So again, the primary thing is that you're providing an activity, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's virtual. The fastest way to get shut down, you guys, is to not provide an activity. If the state comes out to sites and you can't tell them what your activity is, or a parent can't tell them what was offered, that instantly makes you an ineligible site. It doesn't matter if you're doing everything else right, it makes you not an after-school program. Okay, if I have 500 kids on my roster, I am providing them all with the activity. That means that I'm either giving them the handout, they know the links to access, they know what days and times my Zoom meetings are. They do not have to participate. So if I am coming to your site, and like I have a 5-year-old, right? When COVID happened, they were doing Zoom meetings, they were doing virtual storytelling, they were doing all of those things. Most of the time, I was still at work, so I did not participate in them because I had to find alternative care for my son. Okay. But because I was enrolled, registered, you know, for me, paying tuition at that program, I could have received meals from them. Does that make sense? Hopefully that clarifies it a little bit. Okay. Sharon has a question of, if we're serving 7-day meal packs, how do children get breakfast and lunches on the weekends? That is honestly probably a school district question.
How's it?
Under at-risk after school, you are, if kids are on site.
Sorry.
What?
Schools are gonna send kids home with lunch for the weekend.
Yeah, so,
I don't see.
if kids are on site on Saturdays and Sundays, so like what pops into my mind is like if you're a mosque, an Islamic center, and you have Dukesy, or if you're a church and you have kids that come on Sundays for programming. Those kids would be able to be eligible for a lunch on a weekend on site. That cannot be done in combination with 7-day meal packs. So like there's a lot of pieces going on to this. So if that is something that is specific to your site, let us know and we can talk about what options are. But for the most part, if you're doing 7-day meal packs, to keep it clean and simple and to make sure we're not double dipping, we're gonna be serving snacks and suppers because that's what's allowed for at-risk after school. Also, a lot of districts like Minneapolis, St. Paul, maybe not outside of the metro, are gonna be sending home like breakfast and lunch meal packs. And so again, it gets really tricky because we need to make sure that we're not double dipping. Okay. And we provide food to a child. Oh, no, I already got that one. As for the rosters and meal counts, do we need to give that to you in advance? The answer is yes. So when you got a welcome email from us, there was an Excel spreadsheet on there with the roster. We need that before you can start. It needs to be emailed back to us on the Excel spreadsheet because we're going to use that data to actually dump it into software. So if you give us a PDF or if you physically come here and hand it to us, we can't do anything with that, okay? Once we get your roster, we create your My Food Program account. So somebody said, when are we able to log in? When can we figure out like what our usernames and passwords are? The answer is we need your roster first. After today, your number one job is get that roster done and get it turned into us, okay? You yourselves do not need to add it into software. We are doing it for you. And as you add new kids, you need to be able to email that to us and then we will add it for you. Like we said, try to give us a 7-day notice. So if my distribution day is on Saturday and I had 30 new kids sign up today, email it to me right away on Saturday or Sunday morning. Don't wait till next Friday and expect that we're going to be able to get everybody in for hundreds of sites in 12 hours. It won't happen. So try to get it to us as quickly as you can when you have roster changes and we'll get those answered. Okay? I think I answered all the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have other questions or want to unmute themselves for questions about attendance and meal count? Martin, go ahead.
Oh, Karen, it's me again. So the attendance and the meal count, you will be sending spreadsheet that comes with a password. I think I already got the roster. Is that different from what we already have? And the second question is, you need in advance all the data that will be, or we already have to you so that you can create the meal count on behalf of every organization. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, so you specifically, Martin, and this applies to a lot of you, I have sent you an email that literally the title of it is Welcome to the Food Program or Welcome to 2122. And it's got a lot of information in there, including who your site support staff is, and there is an attachment to that email with an Excel spreadsheet. Then it's got columns on it. It says first name, last name, date of birth, and parent name. That is what I need you to type on, and I need one for each site. So if you're somebody who has more than one site, I need one Excel spreadsheet for each site. Those need to come back to me, Kara, directly. Most of you have not returned it. I can make a blanket statement and say out of hundreds of sites, I think I've received 5. So once you get that back to me, I will acknowledge it or I will tell you what's missing. And then moving forward, we will create your username and password for you to get it.
Okay, good. It's very clear now.
Okay, perfect. I have a question from Abdi about payment and reimbursement for food. Should I tangent for a second? But we have a lot of questions. Really quickly, if you were with us last year and you still have pending claims, so if you served food last year when everything got shut down and you are maybe waiting for February, March, or April payment, those just started getting released this week. So we submitted everything to MDE. Everything was gone through with a fine-tooth comb. They went through USDA, and now they have begun processing those claims. So our first group just is getting paid this week. We do not know what order they are working in. I will tell you there was a good amount of people that got paid this week. I don't know if they're working in chronological order, alphabetical order, if it's random, I'm not sure. But if your money is released on Monday or Tuesday, we are gonna let you know. So I have contacted everybody this week, so if you have not heard from me, you are not in this first batch. Monday and Tuesday next week, I will be contacting those people as well. If you need to get paid before you can start, that is okay, right? You're in training today, still send me your rosters. If you don't want to start until October, if you don't want to start until January, that is up to you. Not everybody needs to rush and start immediately on the first day of school. And honestly, not all of you are going to be able to, because again, we're waiting for things to get turned on in clicks to make sure that we don't have stuff get jammed up and that we don't have people lose out on reimbursement. So until we tell you, yes, you are approved in clicks, yes, we have everything we need, and yes, you are ready to start, don't start passing out meals next weekend. Okay? Martin, is your hand still up?
Well, actually, it came back again. You answered my earlier question, but I have another question. Since you talk about payment, you know, we've been in a famine for at least in a couple of months. It looks like we're going to be in feast soon when we get all paid. But the question I have for you in terms of payment is the click. I heard that if one building has a click and you are a part of that building, you don't need to apply a click. But I heard also that if you are in the same building, even though that building has a click, you're still gonna require a click. Can you please explain that a little bit?
Oh, okay. The answer is definitely no. Last year, MDE set aside as a spot on the ground. So what happened was, if a building had a site ID and there was like 2 sites in there, we could process both of those sites through the one site ID number and keep the documentation separate. Since all of this went down, there is now a pilot program that MDE launched where I am actually creating your site IDs. MDE is not creating them, I am. So we're still waiting for them to approve clicks, but I'm creating the site IDs. And there are several sponsors who are creating their own site IDs, so that's another reason that we want to make sure that sites are turned on in clicks, because we can't see each other. So if I create a site ID and another sponsor creates a site ID in the same spot, that's going to jam things up and cause confusion. So if you shared a site ID last year, yes, I am creating a second site ID to separate you out, but that would not necessarily hold you down from starting. A good rule of thumb for you guys that are on here is if you have ever received a check from us, you're approved in clicks, okay? So if we paid you, you're turned on. That doesn't mean start, but that means that you're turned on, okay? We still need your rosters, you still need access, we still need to do some things with you. If you are waiting for payment, you are not turned on yet, probably. There's a chance, but probably. And if you have specific questions, the best thing to do is going to be to send an email. We're working through as fast as we can. We're trying to give priority to all of you that were with us last year before we onboard a bunch of new sites. So we're working as quickly as we can, but we still are running into that we're waiting on MDE to get those things turned on. But the best way to check with us is truly through an email. I know I'm slow at responding. If you've been to the office, a lot of you can know why, but like we have a lot of people in here, a lot of people stop in, a lot of people call. So the best way to get me to check something for you is through email, and then just be patient with me for like a day, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you, Kara, I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to listen to you. Is offer versus serve allowed after school?
Offer versus serve, I would say is only a practice to do if you are on site. So if you are doing virtual programming, if people are just picking up food, or if you are delivering, offer versus serve is not an option for your program. If you are on site, your site support can discuss offer versus serve with you in more detail. So, and to respect everyone's time, we need to move on because we still have a lot to cover. And it looks like we have about 35 minutes to do so. So, just to reiterate, meal counts need to be taken at point of service while your meals are being distributed. You cannot go back at a later time or date to enter your meal counts, again, because the app will open and shut depending on when your meal service time is. Meal counts need to also be taken by your delivery drivers, so they also need to have access to the app. With that being said, we will be creating username and passwords for My Food Program for your site. So please let us know how many additional username and passwords you will need for your particular program so that you have a username and password for the site's actual distribution, and then one for every person who is actually delivering meals. Okay, moving on to menus. Let's talk about menus. So one other important piece of the food program in general is you need to have a menu. Your menu needs to be posted at the main location of your programming, and you also will need to record the actual foods that you serve at your site. The main menu will be emailed to you each month by Jessica, a registered dietitian. This menu must, again, be displayed. So depending on how you're displaying your posters, your menu also needs to be displayed with your posters. If you are serving hot food, you will need to make sure that you are recording any menu substitutions on this posted menu, which then you will sign and date and return to us at the end of the month with your other claims documentation. This menu is going to serve as your record for the actual food that is served to the children throughout the month. So let's talk about It's okay. So the CACFP is made up of 5 main meal components. The first, we'll start with the milk. Milk has to be fluid milk. It has to be cow's milk. The milk also, the requirements, like I spoke of earlier that we would touch on now, has to be either 1% or skim. If you do have a child that is participating in your program that has any special dietary needs, you can also substitute cow's milk for certain soy milks, which will be included in your at-risk after-school training guide, along with certain pea protein milks. If they can be served a soy milk or a pea protein milk, a parent just needs to sign a note. A special diet statement is not required. However, if you have a child that is allergic to cow's milk and they would need almond milk or rice milk, that would require a special diet statement. And we will talk about those a little further on. The second component is meat alternate. So this includes your proteins, your fish, poultry, lean meats, eggs, nuts, seeds, peanut butter, cooked dry beans, cheeses, and yogurts. Vegetables, you can do fresh, frozen, canned, dried vegetables, as well as it would have to be 100% vegetable juice. Fruits, the same. Fresh, frozen, canned, dried fruits, and 100% fruit juice. So as far as fruit juice goes, it has to say 100% on the label. You cannot serve fruit drinks. Grains, this is a very important component as well, because your grains either have to be made from an enriched or a whole grain, which would include breads, pastas, rice, rolls, cereals, crackers, tortillas, injera, etc. You are required on the at-risk after-school program to at least serve one whole grain a day, which we will talk about, that will be incorporated into snack. So, because you will either be claiming lunch, or excuse me, supper and snack. So supper is made up of fluid milk, meat alternates, a vegetable, either a second vegetable or a fruit, and an enriched grain. Snack is typically 2 of the 5 meal components. However, we are going to ask that every site serve milk and a whole grain so that you can reach that whole grain requirement for the day through snack. This is an example of the menu that you'll be receiving monthly from Jessica, our registered dietitian. So what you will notice is that it lists PM snack and supper. However, it does not list the specific foods or the food items that you'll be serving. So for PM snack, it lists milk and whole grain rich items. So we'll be showing you another video in a minute on how you will actually be inputting the actual menus you'll be serving into my food program. So supper also, again, it shows the 5 different food items that will be required to make up that supper on your menu. So you will be posting this, however, you will be actually inputting into my food program the actual foods that you are serving in your 7-day meal packs. So let's talk again about milk. So milk is an important component of at-risk after school. So if you are going to serve 1-year-olds on this program, it is not required, but it is recommended that you serve them whole unflavored milk. However, it is a requirement for 2 to 5-year-olds to receive skim or 1% unflavored milk. If a child is in the 6 years or older category, they can have skim milk or 1% milk, and it can be flavored or unflavored. Again, it is only 1% or skim milk for the ages 2 to 18 that are allowable on this program. If your program chooses to serve 2% milk, those meals will be disallowed. And we will be collecting your receipts. So if your receipts say 2% milk, we will then know that you are not following the requirements of the program and your meals will be disallowed. So on the right hand of the screen, you'll see that we have given you the breakdown of what each child needs portion-wise for milk. So for one child, it would equal 1 gallon or 14 half pints. So if you're doing cartons of milk, you would do 14 cartons, or if you're using shelf-stable milk, you would give them 14 containers of shelf-stable milk. And on the bottom of the screen shows you the different options that you have for the specific age groups. So the next component we're going to talk about is, again, we're asking that you serve your whole grain at snack. So these will be the options that have been loaded into my food program for you to select. So first of all, you have Cheerios. Cheerios need to either be plain or multi-grain Cheerios, and that is because with cereals there is a sugar requirement that says that you need to have 6 grams of sugar or less per serving for a child. So we have Cheerios, we have Kix, which you can do the regular Kix or berry Kix. If you choose Life, it has to be original. The cinnamon version has too much sugar. You can also do Frosted Mini Wheats. And other non-cereal would be popcorn, Goldfish. Again, I want to point out that if you're looking on the slide, you want to make sure that the blue banner is on the front of the packaging that says baked with whole grain. If it does not have this blue banner on the package, it is enriched, not whole grain. So if you are serving Goldfish and that is supposed to be your whole grain and it does not have this blue banner, again, this would cause, if you don't have another whole grain in your 7-day meal packs, a cause for us to disallow meals, because again, a requirement of the at-risk after-school program is that you serve one whole grain rich item per day. So then we also have Teddy Grahams. It does not matter which flavor of Teddy Grahams you serve. Sun Chips, the same thing. If you are going to choose bread, make sure that it does say 100% whole wheat on the packaging. If you run into bread that just says whole wheat or just wheat, make sure then you are checking the ingredient label. So flip to the ingredient label, and the first word in that ingredient label should say whole wheat flour. If it does not say whole wheat, it is not a whole grain rich item. So the other thing it may say is enriched. So enriched is an item that can be used at supper only. So again, be very careful when you're choosing your whole grain items and making sure that the first ingredient says whole wheat flour. So finally, we have oatmeal. If you're buying the individual packets, just stick with the original, because like the maple brown sugar, apples and cinnamon, peaches and cream do not meet the sugar requirement for the food program. So moving on to the meat alternates. So these are the items that will be listed again in my food program for you to choose. So we have canned black beans and canned red beans. We are not able to use dried beans this year because with the guidance we have received from MDE, the items that are in your 7-day meal packs have to be easily prepared by the children when they are home by themselves. We have also listed cheese, so this needs to be block cheese, real cheese. Please stay away from Velveeta or Kraft Singles, as they are not a creditable cheese on the food program. If you have any questions about an item, whether it's creditable or not, please reach out to your site support. We have listed eggs again this year, as we feel those can be easily be prepared by a child using a microwave. You can also use canned chicken breast, canned tuna, peanut butter, and yogurt. Again, what I want to highlight with yogurt is that you need to watch the sugar content with yogurt as well. For every 6-ounce serving of yogurt, you need to make sure that the yogurt contains 23 grams of sugar or less per serving in order for it to credit on the food program. So you want to stay away from any of those yogurts that look more like dessert type, where they have like, you can add in the M&Ms or the Oreo pieces, or the Chobani that like the flips where you add in extra items. Those will not be creditable on the food program.
There was another question regarding, can we serve different protein alternatives based on children's needs?
So if you have other items, so if, I guess that would depend on, can you give us a specific example? Because we cannot provide like frozen chicken breasts and those types of things this year. Again, it has to be something that can be easily be prepared by the child if they are home alone. Did you have a specific component in mind, Abdi?
It's the protein. It says like if they want protein.
Well, right, I'm just asking if he has a particular, like something that isn't listed. you wanna just go on then?
Do you want to talk about what happens if I want to serve something that's not on here? Did we talk about that?
No. So because I guess that usually comes up. So maybe you're referring to string cheese. That's come up in a lot of the other sessions because we haven't listed string cheese. We can load into your site string cheese if that is something that you're looking for as an option. We just did not load that in because of how many string cheese you would need to actually put in a 7-day meal pack. It's a little overwhelming. So again, if there are other things that you feel your program would benefit from, you need to address that with your site support so that we can figure out if that is actually, again, for the guidance given to us by MDE, if it's a credible component for a 7-day meal pack.
So he said,
Yeah,
like
that's
the
me.
hot food, can we give fish, chicken, and poultry in the same day?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I mean, what Robin's talking about right now is 7-day meal packs. So if you are doing hot food daily, you're gonna have a set menu in terms of like
No.
what you're serving each day.
I
Your
attached it with
snack,
that.
if you're doing hot food,
From
is
the
still
company.
gonna be a milk and a whole grain.
I think I attached
So you can do like the
That's only
individual
4 times
goldfish
that I
packs, the
took
individual
Pepsi,
sunfish,
Smack,
sunfish, sun chips, and then a little milk. But I don't know. I think what you're asking is, can you have options, right? Like, so can you put fish, chicken, and poultry all on the same day? Let families pull up and choose. And my answer to you is you are not going to want to do that because you are going to have 3 times more paperwork, and that is going to be really, really difficult.
Don't you see attachment
What you are better off doing is creating a menu where the item changes. Where maybe Monday is fish, Tuesday is chicken, and Wednesday
you only
is
received the invoice.
whatever, beef,
Because I
right?
sent that to Matt,
So that
too.
on that
What I
day,
received so far
what it
from
is
the
what it
company.
is, but every day it could be something different. That is very easily doable, but if you want to do multiple options on one day,
Well, you have to
that
make,
you would literally have to do 3
those
times as many
checks,
paperwork. It would be like running 3
numbers
separate
and,
sites, pretty much.
So you're also
the payment.
asking your
Yeah,
vendor
because
to do
we agree
more
to,
food production as well.
we agree
So
to
your vendor would have to be on board
deposit, so I
with
don't know
doing
why.
more work for your
Sometimes it goes
program as
directly
well.
to deposit,
So,
sometimes
I would
it's gonna be
discourage.
check. I will not receive it, any checks.
All right, so if we move on to vegetables at supper, so we have listed, so for fresh options, we have a green pepper, we have carrots, celery, and tomatoes. We have omitted potatoes and onions this year as those are more like recipe type items and not easily prepared. And I'm not sure if the child is gonna sit down
I'm
to
talking
an
about
onion.
before that, you know.
Maybe.
I understand that.
And then, as far as canned
but I just
vegetables
don't wanna
go,
see
you'll
the
have the
other ones
option
that I'm
of
asking
green
for.
beans,
other
corn,
months.
peas, and mixed
Yeah,
vegetables.
that's what I'm asking for.
So
Do you
if
have
there is
anything
something that
you
we
pay
have
to
not,
send to me?
again, added, and you would like to see if you can add that for your program, again, reach out to your site support. Fruits at supper, you can use, again, 100% juice.
Yeah.
As far as dried fruits go, you could use dates.
No, we're not
Those
talking
will be
about
listed,
February.
fresh
I'm
fruits,
just talking
apple,
about
oranges,
the months
bananas.
after that, we talk about
Fruit cups,
March,
we have diced
like I
peaches,
told you, I don't want you
applesauce,
to go
diced
back what you paid
pears,
me. I just
cherry
don't talk
mixed
about
fruit,
April.
and mandarin oranges as choices for
May.
you to pick for your menu
I have to
options.
look at right now. I'm in a webinar, so I cannot.
So grains at supper,
look
what
at
you'll
it right
notice
now.
here is
I
that we
can't
don't
just-
have
maybe I
bags
can
of
just
rice
go
or
to
pasta.
the email
Again,
that
because
I
those
sent
are not easily
one second.
prepared at
So I
home.
just
So
did
what your
have a few
options
of
are
them,
is you
all
can
of
do a
them.
cup
So
of
I'll
mac
show
and
you
cheese
right now. I'll tell you right
because
now
the kids just have
whatever
to
I
throw the
sent.
water
Hold
in
on
the
1
cup,
second.
put it in the microwave. When that's done, throw in the cheese packet. And that will only count towards a grain if you use macaroni and cheese. You can serve goldfish and at supper, since you're already incorporating the whole grain, you could just do regular goldfish. Ritz crackers, saltine crackers, you can do cups of noodles because those are enriched, or ramen noodles. We do have rice, but if you are going to choose rice, it does
What I'm
have to
looking
be
for right now
instant
is
rice.
March,
It cannot be
April,
rice that
May,
has to be
and
fully
June
cooked.
rent.
It
If
has
you
to
have
be the
those,
instant.
You can.
And then we have
just tell me
tortillas,
right now,
injera,
if you have those months,
and
that's only
enriched
months I have a
bread.
question. I'm not having question for February. I don't have a question for July and August. That's only 4. So I just want to, you can tell me. what
So
you have.
you will pick an item from each category when you are planning your menus. Again, each month you're going to get a general menu, and you will be going into my food program to actually create the menu that you will be serving. So we are going to play another video right now that will show you how to plan your menus in my food program.
I'm going to say a couple things real quick before you can play. So I think you already said this, but you guys are going to get packing sheets.
Well,
So if you were with us last year and had those big sheets that show you like what to put in a bag, one of our follow-up emails today that is coming out to you.
So you're saying
We're
you're
also
sending me
making like
two
the
checks
big
for,
11 by 17 large ones for you to have on site.
So when
So
you
again,
send me
before
the
you
checks-
start, everybody will be scheduling a time to come into the office. We will be reaching out to you to pick stuff up. If you're located far away, we will be sending you materials that you will need. If you are doing hot food, you need to coordinate with your site support staff and with Jessica, because you're gonna have a customized menu, right? Not everybody's gonna have the same hot food menu. So depending on who your vendor is,
but,
you guys are gonna make a menu,
that
and
is
then we're
supposed to be
actually gonna put it
beforehand,
into my
but
food
you-
program
because
for
you
you.
owe us
So you
money
will not have to
before
do
that.
this part
So I'm not talking
yourself
about-
at all.
and what you said
What you're gonna have to do, and I think Robin already said this, is when you get your paper menu, you need to record your substitutions on it, right? So like if you are saying that you're serving mac and cheese and instead you had chicken leg, you're gonna need to record that on your posted menu, because you're gonna have it posted, sign it and send it back to us, because that's you capturing like, at the end of the month, what did you actually serve on every day, right? Because at the end of the month, we need to know what did you serve 3 Tuesdays ago. We need to be able to answer those questions. If you were with us last year and you did 7-day meal packs, we had a menu and you would like circle what went in your bag. This is the equivalent of circling what goes in your bag. So instead of you having to circle it and give us that paper back, you're actually gonna make the choice in here. So that's what this video is.
Okay, sure. I understand.
I'm gonna walk you through it and talk about it right now. You can hit play. Either you will be doing this, so if you're packing your own bags, you're doing this, or your vendor might need this. So you're gonna get the link again. So you're gonna go to our website, Partners in Quality Care, and again, you're gonna click on the purple box that says enter meal counts and attendance, because this is how you actually get into software. You are gonna have a username and password. If you have a vendor, your vendor is gonna need to have a username and password. So whoever it is that's doing this needs to go ahead and log in. And then instead of clicking on meal counts, you're gonna click on that fork and knife where it says menu. When you first click in here, and again, actually this is the time to turn your phone or tablet sideways so your screen gets bigger. And when you first get in here, there's no information. There's no data in here, okay? So what you're doing is you're telling us what did you serve. So I'm distributing every Monday, and I need to go in, and on Monday the 2nd, I need to put in what I'm actually packing in my meal pack. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click where it says PM snack. Like Robin said, everybody is serving milk and a whole grain for PM snack. So you're gonna hit edit menu. And then down here where it says use saved menu, we've already put in there every combination of milk and a whole grain that you have to choose from. So on this Monday the 2nd, when I'm packing my bag, I have selected Sun Chips and I have selected milk. So I have to go in here and pick what it was. So I have to scroll down until I find my Sun Chips. And it's showing me all my information. It shows me how much I gave out that day, right? And then I'm gonna just scroll all the way to the bottom and I'm gonna hit save. Then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be able to see that I have a menu in there. So that means that I told you that I served sun chips and milk. Where it says meal, I'm gonna like click that little arrow and I'm gonna switch it over to supper. Because in my bag of groceries, I have both snack and supper items in there. So I'm gonna wanna click edit menu, and now I need to pick something from every area. If you miss a component, it is the fastest way to lose a lot of money really quickly if you're doing 7-day meal packs. So if you don't serve a vegetable or you don't serve a fruit, none of those meals are eligible for reimbursement. So you wanna make sure you pick something from every category. So first up, you're gonna pick milk. And in here, your options are only 1% skim and whole, because you should never, ever, ever, ever be buying 2% milk. We know the kids like it better, but it's not actually credible on the food program. So this week for my meat alternate, what I put in my bag, I put tuna in my bag this week. So I'm gonna go in and pick down here, and I'm gonna pick tuna. Then I believe I need a vegetable next, and I forgot what I picked. What did I pick, Robin?
Carrots?
Carrots. I picked carrots this week. So I'm going to go in and pick my carrot.
And a banana.
It's all blending together in my head. And I picked a banana for my fruit. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit banana, because I also have bananas in my bag. Oh, and then rice. I forgot my second grain. See, I would have had to just love meal. So I also served rice. Don't forget your second grain. You have a grain for snack and a grain for supper. So then I'm going to hit save. I can see in there that I have 5 components. You should always have 5 things right there. And then I can go down and hit save. If you go back to your menu tab, you're going to be able to see the little fork and knife now show up on the menu, and that's how you know that it's saved, okay?
Another thing to point out is you'll see the wheat symbol underneath the meals. As you see, once we inputted those meals, the wheat symbol did turn green. That means that you do have a whole grain a part of your menu.
Yeah.
The ones that are blue that haven't been planned do not. So you're also looking for that to turn green when you're planning your menus.
So you should only do this on the days that you distribute. So if you are distributing Monday, every Monday you will have a menu in there. If you're distributing Mondays and Tuesdays, every day Monday and every day Tuesday you will have a menu in there, okay? So just on the distribution days. Somebody asked yesterday when we did training, what if I grocery shop on Saturday, but I distribute on Monday? It is okay for you to build your menu on Saturday. I suggest you do build your menu on the day your food is packed, but put it under Monday. Put it on the day you're distributing. And again, if you're doing hot food, you do not have to do this part, because we are working with you for your customized menu, and we're going to put it in there for you. Okay? Questions about how to enter your menu? Can I talk about caterers for 1 second?
We're going to talk about that with food production.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so just a few additional reminders about menus and food safety. So when you do finally come into the office and pick up that final packet of materials, you will be given a handout that must be given out to each parent at least during the initial distribution of meals. If you do have new families that come every week, then you will also need to give them a handout at this time. So the handout does not need to be given out every week, but we do need to make sure that every family is given a handout so that they know how to use the meals within their 7-day meal pack. Again, keep your cold foods cold. So making sure that if you have cold food, if you're going to have milk, that needs to be temped at 41 degrees or less. If you choose yogurt, cheese, or eggs, those also need to be cold and need to be at 40 degrees or 41 degrees or less at all times. And then while you are storing your food, storing, packing, or distributing, make sure it's at least 6 inches off the floor. So whether you use tables, you can buy the wooden pallets, you need to follow the health department guidelines. The food has to be kept off the floor. So moving on to food production records. So food production records are used mainly for hot foods. So if you are serving hot foods daily, your caterer or vendor will need to go into my food program and input food production records. If you are using a caterer that is purchasing and packing your 7-day meal packs, they will also need to go into my food program and record food production records. If you are a self-prep site, you do not need food production records. You are actually going to send us a copy of your food receipts, or if you have an invoice from like an Upper Lakes Food or Cisco, that will be used as a substitution for food production records. So we are now going to show you a video on how to record the food production records in my food program.
So as we're watching this, I want you to really think about like your specific site and whether or not you need a catering contract. So if you have hot food, you automatically need a catering contract, you automatically need a vendor, and your vendor should be doing this every single time that they make food for you. If you are doing a 7-day meal pack and you are purchasing your own groceries at Sam's Club, Costco, Upper Lakes, you're doing it, you're packing it, you're doing everything, you're self-prep. You don't need to listen to this video. You don't need to do it. If you are having a vendor, oh, it doesn't matter. You can still hear me probably. If you're having a vendor purchase and pack your bags, then you need a catering contract. If they are purchasing and packing, and they should be the ones that are doing this food production, and they're the ones that should be doing the menu stuff that I just showed you. I need to stand by you because that doesn't work. Okay, so your vendor should be going in and going to our website, Partners in Quality Care, again, clicking on attendance and meal counts, just like they did before. And you as the site, again, are gonna get links to this video, so please share them with your caterer. Your caterer should have an independent username that is different than yours. So they're gonna go ahead and log in. If there's a vendor that's working with more than one organization, they're actually gonna have access to all of their organizations when they log in. So just like with the menus, you're gonna click on the same tab. You're gonna click on that fork and knife, it's the menu tab, and this is where they're gonna enter food production. In order to enter food production, you have to have a menu. So we just learned how to enter the menu. That's the only place that we can enter food production. So on the days they're packing, they should be putting in packing, menus, and food production at the same time. If you are hot food, we will have a preloaded menu for you in here, and you will need to do it each day. Okay, so in order to do it, they're gonna click on snack. And we already have the menu. We already know that we serve Sun Chips and 1% milk. So now we need to do this to show how much. So we click Edit Food Production. And then if you were with us for summer and doing this, the screen looks a little bit different. We always want you to choose the portion size for 6 to 12-year-olds. If you pick somebody younger than that, you're not going to be serving enough food. So on here, you write down how many meals, either how many hot meals or how many bags of groceries you have. So right now, we're going to put in 500. Really slowly. And then you're gonna hit that blue button that says Estimate Production. And what that's doing is it's calculating how much. So 500 kids winds up being 500 ounces of Sun Chips and 31.5 gallons of milk for snack, okay? We're doing this every day because, like, if you have a caterer you don't need to provide unitized individual receipts, right? So you don't have to show us every gallon of milk you purchased. You don't have to show us how many pieces of cheese you purchased. You're going to give us a catering invoice instead. So this is the caterer like asserting too that this is how much food they dropped off to you, this is how much food they provided. That's the reason to do these. So up on that bar where it says PM snack, now you're gonna go in and pick supper because you're also serving a supper every day. And then you're gonna do the exact same thing. You're gonna hit edit food production. You're gonna scroll down to the 6 to 12-year-olds. And you're gonna put 500 because it's still 500 bags or 500 meals, right? And then you're gonna click that button that said estimate production and it tells you how many. So for 500 kids, it actually is 93 pounds of bananas. You're gonna hit save and your food production is done for that day. So when you click on the menu tab, how you know that it's saved is when you get back to that screen, not only do you have the fork and knife, which means you have a menu, but you have that little pencil, which means that you also now are done with your food production. If you are self-prep, again, you don't have to do this because instead you're gonna turn in receipts to us. So we're gonna be able to see that you bought 93 pounds of bananas on your receipts. We're not gonna need to see it in the food production. If you are a vendor for hot food, the thing that's nice about this is it tells you how much food to make. So if I put in that I'm gonna make 500 chicken legs for 500 kids, it will tell me like how many bazillions of pounds of chicken legs that actually is. So if you do it prior to starting to cook, it actually helps make sure that you're meeting the portion size, okay? If there are questions about this, I'm actually going to have you type them in the box and I will respond to them in the box so that Robin can keep moving forward. But again, we will be sending out training links on this. And if you have additional questions or your vendors do, please have them reach out to us because we're happy to sit down and go through this as many times as we need to because we know it's overwhelming and it's new and it's confusing. But we did do it for summer food, you guys, and it worked really, really well. So I'm optimistic about the fall.
Okay, so moving into receipts and invoices. So why are receipts and invoices so important? So when you participate on the food program, your meal service has to operate at a nonprofit status. And what that means is the food program intentionally was set up to provide supplemental reimbursement for food costs for a program so that they could serve healthier food choices to the children in their care and in programs. So if you are paying more, if you're spending more money on your food, that does not mean that you're going to receive more reimbursement than another site. There are set reimbursement rates for snack and supper, and you will be reimbursed according to those rates on the CACFP. However, what you want to do is ensure that you are spending enough money on food that when you are done at the end of the month, that your food costs exceed the amount of your reimbursement. So what can you put on your, what counts towards your receipts? Your milk, any of the food you purchase. If you were to purchase any type of utensils, if you're requiring your staff to wear gloves while packing food or distributing food, those count as items that count towards your nonprofit meal service. Also, if you are using a vendor, we want you to turn in your catering invoices because those will be what we apply. So we will have a claim staff that will actually be receiving all of your receipts, and they will be going through your receipts and comparing them to your monthly menu. We will only be able to count the foods on your receipts that were served on your menu. So it is very important, whether you're serving hot foods or 7-day meal packs, that your menus match your receipts so that we can get you to that nonprofit status. So what if you are not spending enough on food to make yourself a nonprofit meal service? There are other things that we can use. So if you do have staff, which many of you do, we can also collect their timesheets with their rate of pay so that we can also calculate that in, and that can go towards your nonprofit meal service. So examples of receipts and invoices. So what are we looking for when we are collecting your receipts at the end of the month? We need to be able to read them and make out these 5 items. One is the name of the store. So where are you actually purchasing your food from? The date. This is really important. We need to be able to read the date that these items were purchased. We need to be able to read on the receipt what was actually purchased, because again, someone will be reviewing your receipts and comparing them to your menus to make sure what is on your menus was actually served compared to your receipts. The total amount of your purchase and the mode of payment. So whether it be cash or a credit card, what we cannot see on receipts are EBT. You cannot pay for food using federal funds and be reimbursed with federal funds. The other example is an example of a catering invoice. So the Department of Education, this is how they would like it to look if you are getting meals on a daily basis, listing the snacks and suppers that you're receiving, the date at which you're receiving them, the quantity you received, the rate that the vendor is actually charging you per meal, and then the total amount. Quickly, I'm just going to touch on special diet statements. So special diet statements are required if a child needs to eat a food that is different than on your menu. I would just suggest when you get your actual adult care training guide, or when you look at the PowerPoint, please look through this. If you have a child or a family that comes to you and they feel like a food needs to be omitted that you are serving, if you have questions about this, just reach out to your site support and they can discuss this with Jessica, a registered dietitian, to determine whether you need a dietary preference form or an actual special diet statement. And then, as we talked about earlier in training, so you also need civil rights and CACFP training logs. So again, you're completing this part of the program today, so make sure that you are completing your training logs, whether you are the responsible individual or if you are site staff. Make sure you're training all your site staff as soon as possible. Once we receive all the documentation, the rosters, and the training logs, then we will be giving you your next steps for participation. Just quickly, the other items that are required for record keeping is if you are using a vendor, whether it be 7-day meal packs and they're purchasing and packing for you, or if you have hot meals, we do need a catering contract on file. So again, let your site support know if you have a vendor, because then we will need to create a vendor agreement that needs to be signed by your program and the vendor of your choosing. And we do need to have that executed and on file. All of you should have already completed a sponsor agreement when you applied for the program. That will be kept in your electronic file, so you will have access to it once you start the program. Food and beverage licenses are needed if you are using a vendor. Also, an institutional food service license if you're using a vendor, and a food manager certificate. We also will need copies of all 3 of these before your site will be allowed to start the at-risk after-school program as far as the food being distributed. So the final piece that we're gonna quickly cover is, so the COVID-19 waivers that are in place, they are in place until June 30th, 2022, unless federally the peacetime emergency ends. And at that point, we would be given a 30-day notice, and we would let you know when these waivers expired. So CACFP at-risk after-school eligibility waiver. Again, that is, sites can serve meals and snacks to children after the regular school day, regardless of site location. Parent and guardian meal pickup. There is that waiver, so it allows parents and guardians to pick up the meals and snacks for their children, so the children do not need to be in attendance, only registered for the at-risk after-school program. And all activities must still be made available for the days that you are making meals available for all enrolled children, even if your activities are going to be virtual. And finally, meal service time flexibility allows meals to be served outside of the regular scheduled meal times, and that is also why you're able to serve multiple day meals, up to 7-day maximum distribution at one time. So that is the end of training. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry we ran over. So again, once we have received all of the required paperwork that we need from your site and you have completed that first pre-op visit and are ready to go, your site support will be contacting you, because we do have materials here at the office that we are preparing for you that you will need to pick up before you can begin meal distribution with your at-risk after-school program. So at this time, if you have any other questions or concerns that you would like to ask, feel free to ask those. If you have no other questions, feel free to leave feel free to leave the building.
Please make sure you turn in your training logs. The things I need, and this goes with Amina's question in the chat, where can we get all these forms? There's multiple things going on here. You should have received an email from me that has 4 training logs in it. If you do not have that, put in the chat what you need from me. So there's an email with 4 training logs. There's also a WeTransfer link with today's PowerPoint, and that PowerPoint is like scripted in the notes section. I mentioned, if you were on here earlier, we have a recorded version of Friday's training. So if you want me to send you an email link to that, please let me know. And then fourth and finally, if you have not gotten a welcome letter with the roster and being assigned the spreadsheet, please let me know. 4 of you let me know, no, 7 of you let me know earlier saying, hey, I didn't get the welcome letter. So I will be sending that to you. I need to check on who your site support staff is. But at this point, everybody should have the training logs. Everybody should have today's PowerPoint. If you want the recorded version, let me know. And if you want a welcome letter or a copy of your welcome letter, please let me know. Yep, and then Jody is going to be sending out 2 emails right now. One of them is going to have the packing sheet. It's going to have the parent handout that needs to go with if you're doing 7-day meal packs. And it's going to have a shopping list. So that email is only if you're doing 7-day meal packs. If you're doing hot food, you can go ahead and delete it, right? Why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you.
And then... oh, that's cute. And everybody loves you too, Happy. And then the other email she's sending out is what?
The videos. The links.
Oh yeah, all 3 videos. There are links to the videos, so you can watch the videos as many times as you want. They are narrated by somebody other than me who did a better job than me, so if it's confusing, rewatch it, that might be good. And definitely share those with your vendors if you have them. Me and Robin and Jody will be hanging out on here, so If you have questions, you can just honestly unmute yourself and ask them. You guys can hang up on us. We will respond to stuff in the chat, so we'll just be here for a little bit. Okay? Thank you. We appreciate you.
Bye.
So, I see hands raised. You guys can go ahead and unmute. Go ahead.
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to make sure that I got the email for the PowerPoint. I tried to text it to you, but for some reason it's showing block, like a red block error message on my end.
You need today's training PowerPoint?
Yeah, the PowerPoint training with the audio included as well, if that's possible.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. What's your email?
Urban Advantage Services.
Yep.
At gmail.com.
I will send it right now, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Martin, are you?
Yeah, hello. I'm still here. I haven't fallen to sleep yet, but quick question. And in terms of the training log, I know it comes with 4 attachments. You will need that. I understand there is a PowerPoint presentation, but the question I have for you is the civil rights. Have we already completed the civil rights requirement by listening the presentation today, or is it something we have to do it online, just as we have done in the past?
No, that was the first part of training, so you have fulfilled that training requirement for this fiscal year.
Okay, good. And then the second question, it comes back to the menu. If you are not doing a self-preparation, food delivery, but you are using a vendor, then the menu requirement that you just presented, that has to be done by the vendor, not by the agency. Is that correct?
Correct. So that's why it's also important to share this training with your vendors. I know we do have some vendors that have participated in these virtual trainings, but you will definitely want to share the PowerPoint and the videos that are being sent additionally with them as well.
Good. So last question, right now, moving forward, what you need from us, including everybody else, is the training logs, is the spreadsheet, and from there on, you will be sending the access code and other more information to us.
So we are not sending you the username and password. You will actually be invited by your site support to come and pick up that information here at the office. So yes, we do need your roster, we do need your training logs, but we also need to make sure that we have your intake form, that your site support has completed your pre-op form or pre-op monitoring visit, because you cannot start claiming on the food program until that monitoring visit has been completed. So once we have all those items here in-house, we will be inviting you to pick up your posters, your menu handout, the backup to meal counts in case you have any issues with the app, and your packing sheets, and the usernames and passwords for my food program.
Okay.
Again, if you need more than one username and password, you need to let us know, because otherwise we are only going to assign each site one username and password for my food program.
Good. Well, thank you so much. Well, I want to congratulate you. This presentation, it looks a little bit overwhelming, but I think it makes the whole program and the whole activity much smoother.
Yeah.
And I think this will actually make you as a leader in the food business, because everything's been organized well, and I want to congratulate you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Martin. And we promise it's not going to stay overwhelming. I mean, for those of you that are still on, that's what our job is we're here to help you. So we're implementing this stuff to help, number one, protect you. And then when we come out and do site visits and stuff, we're expecting you not to retain all this information, right? I mean, this was 2 hours of content. We're trying to provide you with as many resources as we can. And then when we find out and find things that are wrong, we're going to help you fix them, right?
And that's truly the purpose of monitoring visits. They are like the heartbeat of our company. We use those so that we know that we have properly trained you. And then if we get to your sites and we notice that something isn't running as smoothly as it should, that is our job then to retrain you on those items. So don't feel like we're coming out to find that you're doing things wrong. Really, it is our job to make sure that you are set up for success on this program. We truly want all of our sites to be successful at the end of the day.
I've got a question in the chat box, Mohammed. It says, what is the different login for the PI?
Shit, I'm in training, bro. Let me call you back.
And the same. You are going to our website, the Partners in Quality Care website, because that's what's connecting you to my program. So it will be one login, like per site, or however many logins per site you want, but you don't have a separate login into our website versus into my food program. Some other people have their hand up. You can go ahead and unmute with your hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
The videos in the training, do we get those separately or?
Yep, Jody, that's gonna come from Jody. So Jody's gonna be sending out an email and it's gonna have a link to all 3 videos so that you don't have to watch the whole PowerPoint. So those videos themselves will be sent separate and they are narrated.
So will that be sent to everyone or do I have to send you my email separately?
It will be sent to everyone that we have on file that was registered for this. Give us like 45 minutes, okay? Because we have to sort through who is on here. If you pre-registered, you for sure will get it. If you don't have it in like an hour, shoot Jody or myself an email and we'll make sure to get it to you.
No problem, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions from anybody who's on that needs anything from us? No? Okay, well, we're here to help you, so whatever you need, you let us know. Be careful about your start date. Don't start until we confirm for sure that you're turned on, because again, we want to protect you from doing stuff that is not reimbursable. And as you have questions, reach out to your site support staff, and I think that's pretty much it.
So go ahead and have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks for participating in training today.
Thank you.